After a year and a half, Mrs. Wizard's Maserati has finally broke. Let's get started.
That's right, ladies and gents. I was driving one day, even in Kansas, you wouldn't think, I'm wearing a sweater today. And it started to get hot in the car. And it was a nice warm day because Kansas weather is hot, cold, hot, cold. It started blowing hot air. It wouldn't get any cooler.
We're having air conditioning problems, and in the winter you would think you don't need AC, but you do, especially on a 50-degree day. Yep. When engine heat gets sucked up into the cowling, and now you have 70-degree air blowing and there's no way to cool it down. Yep. So let's take a look at what happened here. So this is Mrs. Wizard's 2018 Maserati Levante GranSport. It has the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 in it, almost 400 horsepower. There's the common misconception that it's a Maserati, it's broken, it's always broken. Every 30 days something's broken, it costs $5 grand. You would never want to buy one of those because they're so crappy, they're so junky. They're not. Especially the newer ones. Now if you're going back to 1989 or something, yeah, those Maseratis probably aren't the best. But the newer ones are very, very good. If you watch Hoovie's Garage, he actually has one. He called it the Metharati because he had purchased it and it was found that there was meth in the back. A meth dealer owned it before him. It had 100,000 miles and it had been treated basically like drive it like you stole it. They had beat the thing relentlessly. I mean, no maintenance. The oil change, if you watch Hoovie's Garage, we did the oil change on it and it came out like pancake syrup. After being mistreated so badly and having 100,000 miles on it, everything works. The suspension works, the air suspension. There's no check engine lights. There was nothing wrong, really. I also know another person who lives in a town not far from here who has one of these, and they've had zero trouble. Zero. So when people say, oh, how do you handle it being so junky? They're not. But something finally did break. On any car you could buy in America, even a Toyota, something can break. Like Mrs. Wizard mentioned, she's been driving around and noticing that when she wants some cooler air or the defrost option to work, it's just not working. And we found out that the AC was inoperable. She actually found this out several weeks ago. It's just that we've been very busy in the shop and she's had a schedule she's had to keep. So finally we got some time to get it in the shop. And it really wasn't anything that keeps you from driving your car. You can still drive your car, you just don't have the AC function. And luckily it's cold out where you don't need it as much, but it's still very useful to have in the winter for the defrost option. One of the key things we're going to show today is how something that's very simple and actually kind of cheap to fix, relatively cheap, could turn into a nightmare if it was diagnosed at a shop that's not trustworthy or honest. The problem with this car is actually simple, but someone could easily say you need the complete AC system replaced. It's going to be $6 grand or $4 grand, or on this vehicle it could be $6 grand. I'm able to fix this for $1,000. That's the cost of parts. Maserati parts are not cheap like your grandpa's Chevy. So it's expensive. And we're going to talk about what it was. First, let's get this thing up in the air a little bit and show you guys what we found. So we already did the simple checks. We connected the AC machine up, verified that the refrigerant was present, it had the correct amount, all the switches, everything was working. And we did connect a scan tool and check the HVAC system, and we really didn't find any codes or anything going on that way. So I knew it's probably something going on with the compressor. Let me show you guys where it's at. You see, here's the connector that goes to it, and that little concave area right there is actually where it mounts on the side of the engine. This is one of those AC compressors that you don't take it out from the top or under the hood. It has to come out through the wheel well. So one of the things that we did before we evacuated the Freon is we verified that it's at least trying to turn on the AC compressor. And one of the things we did is connect a test light to this little connector. I just connected ground to the ground side and positive to the positive side of my test light directly to this connector right here. And when I did that, I turned on the air conditioner and the light came on. And when I saw that light, this is again the things I talk about. I like black and white things that give me definite answers. And the guaranteed answer is everything from that connector all the way up inside the dash, all the modules, all the wiring is perfect. Because if it wasn't, it will not turn on the AC compressor, will not turn on that light. But it does. It's saying everything's happy, I'm happy, just please turn on the compressor. And the compressor was saying, no, I refuse to. So I've got the hood open, here's my power probe. I'll go ahead and get that hooked up right here. You can hear it beep, signifying it's ready to go. We're going to do some testing real quick on these compressors. So here we are, the old compressor. I'll go ahead and apply power to it. It does show that there's a circuit there, but when I apply power to it, nothing happens. So let's go over to the new one. Here when I apply power, it blows the circuit breaker on the side here. I just reset it, which is meaning it's pulling too much of a load. There's nothing wrong with the compressor, but that tells me at least it's doing something. The other one was doing nothing. Let's get some actual battery power to this thing. So as we put power directly from the battery to the compressor, we can see that it works. And when we connect power to the old one, nothing. So that test verified for sure that the compressor is bad. Now, is it bad mechanically? No. It actually is a perfectly running compressor. It had just failed electrically, so if you put power to it to engage the clutch, it does nothing. So mechanically, it can be good all day long, and it's still a useless AC compressor until you solve the electrical part of it. So the question could be asked, why don't we just replace the little coil or the clutch on the compressor? It's a lot cheaper, right? Good luck finding one of those for a Maserati compressor. And in fact, it's probably not a whole lot cheaper than just getting the compressor itself. By the time you get the labor of pulling it apart, you have to get a puller to pull some of these off of the hub. It's quite a bit of labor to get it apart and put the new one back on. You're at the cost of a new compressor. I was able to get this new compressor for right around $1,000. And that is expensive, I agree. I can get a compressor for most other cars for 200 bucks, 300 bucks. This one is $1,000 because it's a Maserati. But it is what it is. We got a new one. We'll get this installed. We'll have Magic Mike start putting this thing back together. We'll get the Freon in it, and it will have AC all over again, which is very, very good. We're very happy about that. So now, what I was talking about earlier, how you could be taken to the cleaners really bad, is that we see this is a simple problem. Although the compressor is expensive, it doesn't need new condenser, new evaporator core, the dash to come out. It doesn't need a full AC job. It just needs the electrical portion of the compressor solved, which is a new compressor. Now keep in mind, a shop that's untrustworthy or dishonest, they could easily take this situation and run with it. They could say, yeah, we checked out your AC, the whole system is just shot. It's going to need the whole system replaced, and on this car it's $6,000. And then they might just replace the compressor and say that they did the rest, even though they didn't. It's working. It actually works again. You pay the $6,000 and you're none the wiser. I know that I paid $6,000 and I know that now my AC works again. How do you know what they did or didn't do? And like I just mentioned, the compressor did not mechanically fail. There is not pieces of shrapnel or debris all in the system that needs to be evacuated and cleaned and all that. It electrically failed. Mechanically, it's still a good functioning compressor. So that means we do not need the entire system replaced, just the compressor. So we'll get this put back on. We'll place a vacuum on it with our AC machine and put the right amount of refrigerant in it, and we'll be back in business. Let's take a look real quick under the hood. So this is the twin turbo 3-liter V6. It is very powerful. It is a fun engine to drive around. You can see that it looks kind of imposing to work on with all the hoses and wires and everything in the way, but it's actually not. Here's our coils, cam sensors. There's some vent lines and hoses and vacuum hoses and things up top there. You can see around the front of the engine, except for the snorkel that's in the way, the belt and the pulleys and everything is very easy to get to. Very, very easy. The compressor is actually down here in this little cubby hole area, and from up top it would be very difficult to get to. From down below we can go through the wheel well. We can actually get to it. It made it a lot easier. So this is derived from a Ferrari engine. Is it a Ferrari engine pulled out of a Ferrari and put into here? No, it's not. But it is the block. It's based off of Ferrari engineering. It is borrowed from Ferrari Motor Company, I guess you can call them. And it does not have a flat plane crank like a Ferrari. It has a cross plane crank. But it is a very fun engine. It sounds really good. It's a lot of power, and it's actually pretty decent on fuel for what it is. And it's actually very easy to work on. I've had no trouble getting around or checking things out. Oil changes are really simple. So we've been really happy with it. So yes, the Maserati finally did break. But is it disastrous? No, not really. We'll fix the compressor, get the new one on, the problem is solved. So it's really not that big of a deal. It was a little bit expensive. But after a year and a half of ownership, and the fact that we bought it with 18,000 miles, and now it has, what, almost 60?
On the cusp of 60.
Almost 60,000 miles. And we've just done oil changes and tires and a compressor. That's it. So it's actually been a very good vehicle. So I'll get Magic Mike over here. We'll get this thing back together so Mrs. Wizard can get her Maserati back. So until then, go ahead and check out our Amazon affiliate link in the description below. And the power probe that we just used and some of the wires and things is listed in the link where you can purchase a lot of the things we use in the shop. All the tools are listed there. We really do use them here in the shop. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.